It's a clean start. That's a good jump. That's a muddy routine.
It was billed as a unique, historic Games.
What a famous victory. It's been sensational.
This is a Games like no other.
Now it's a Games that won't happen at all.
I was dumbfounded. My jaw dropped and hit the ground. I was devastated for our athletes.
It was April last year when Daniel Andrews first announced that several cities in regional Victoria would host the Commonwealth Games in 2026, spruiking the benefits for the state.
All the events will be conducted in regional Victoria. It'll cost a substantial amount, let's not be in any doubt about that, but I don't see it as a cost. I see it as a profound investment in showcasing to the world the best part of regional Australia.
But after an early meeting on Spring Street this morning, the Premier told ministers and advisors the Games would be scrapped, saying he now thought hosting the event would be too expensive.
What's become clear is that the cost of hosting these Games in 2026 is not the $2.6 billion which was budgeted and allocated and is sitting, vast majority of which has not been spent. It's not $2.6 billion, it is in fact at least $6 billion and could be as high as $7 billion. $6 to $7 billion is well and truly too much.
To see the announcement of the blowout in the budget today and to be that large is very disappointing.
Daniel Andrews said the $6 billion estimate had come from new advice he'd received.
As I've said to you, there'll be a full accounting for this, but today's not the day for that.
But by lunchtime, that massive figure was being questioned by the authority overseeing the organisation of the Games.
Stated cost overruns, in our opinion, are a gross exaggeration. Beyond this, the Victorian Government willfully ignored recommendations to move events to purpose-built stadia in Melbourne and in fact remain wedded to proceeding with expensive temporary venues in regional Victoria.
The previous Commonwealth Games in Birmingham cost $1.8 billion. The last Commonwealth Games to be held in Australia at the Gold Coast cost $1.2 billion. And the government's $6 billion figure quoted this morning, well, that's news to the organising committee.
The costs were less than 50% of those being quoted today by the Premier.
It also said it had no warning that the state would be unable to afford the event.
The detailed budgetary implications announced today had not been cited or discussed with the CGF or CGA ahead of being notified of the government's decision earlier today.
The first they heard of the government pulling the pin was at 6:30 this morning. One of the hosts of the event found out even later.
It was a shock announcement this morning. I was notified very early, or not very early this morning, but really just before the announcement was made.
The Games had become a maligned poorer cousin to the Olympics, and Victoria had been the only formal bid for the event. This morning, Daniel Andrews said the bid was a last-minute proposal to help find a home for the Games.
As a state, we were happy to help out.
They did not step in as the host at the last minute, as indicated by the Premier earlier today.
It's unclear how much money has been spent by the government on the Games so far. The Victorian Premier said no contract had been signed, locking the state into a major financial obligation. But according to one of our most celebrated sporting heroes, the spectacular spiking of the event will cause major reputational damage around the world.
And they know that we do sporting events like the best in the world. And so for them to, especially now the FIFA World Cup's coming to town, for them to say, yeah, but they pulled out of the Commonwealth Games, that's not good for our reputations.
But the Victorian Government says there'll still be a legacy.
That covered both legacy benefits.
Part of legacy.
For legacy.
Legacy benefit.
Legacy benefits.
It was the buzzword referring to lasting infrastructure in regional Victoria that was to be built for the event. New sporting facilities and more public housing had been pledged, and the government says the $2 billion committed to the towns will still be spent.
Each one of those sporting infrastructure facilities will be going ahead, and we will be wanting to push on and complete those projects with those local communities.
And while that's welcome news to some country mayors, others say having venues without the Games is a blow to regional Victoria.
There will absolutely be spending that we cannot get back. All councils took on staff, extra work, had put extra space in their budgets to be able to prepare for these Games.
To build the theatre without the show is really, really disappointing.
The 2026 Games is just 2.5 years away. The race to find a replacement host is on, but with several states already withdrawing interest, it might be too late.
The worst case scenario is that the Commonwealth Games 2026 is cancelled completely. I mean, currently Victoria have put it back on the table for somebody else, but to host a multi-sport games like that with only 2 years' notice is pretty difficult.